Brookings Assistant Director of the Family Resource and Youth Services Center program.
So Mary Ann and I wanted to take a few minutes today to talk to you about why we felt that having standards, adopting standards, was an important accomplishment for our program. The development of standards is a significant accomplishment for our field of practice, putting us in the same league as healthcare, childcare, education, and other fields that have long had standards. It's important for all of us to spend our time and efforts doing what works, and our adopted standards of practice include proven strategies for family support. Our standards were adopted by our national organization, the National Family Support Network, in 2013 from a team of leaders in our field that came together and agreed that we need some consistent practices that work across our field. Family Resource and Youth Services Centers had our own representative, Mike Denny, at the table in the developmental phase, and Randall Campbell, a FRYSC coordinator in Western Kentucky, had a seat at the table for the recent update, which allowed us to have input and ensure that it relates back to the FRYSC mission and vision. Local flexibility is always going to be a strength of the FRYSC program. Having standards of practice for all FRYSCs will help ensure that while we may meet the needs of families and students differently, we will all be committed to quality.
One of the ways that we've discussed using the standards of quality is with your advisory council. Our advisory councils serve many roles. They're advocating, they're working with accountability, and they're guiding our program. The standards of quality support your advisory council in all of these areas. They give the advisory council language to share information about not only the work that you're doing, but that your center is performing at a high level. Discussing your programming in the terms of the standards of quality allows your council to hear about your work and to help determine areas of growth. And finally, the standards of quality help guide discussions about your school community, their needs, and how the center can meet them. So when we look at the next steps of our standards of quality, we're going to continue to work them into the fabric of their program. They're a part of what Family Resource and Youth Services Centers do. Quality standards are not intended to be a one-time event or a one-time discussion. They're ongoing with our Family Resource and Youth Services Centers. Our centers base our programming on core and optional components and that local need that Melissa talked about. That's what we do in our centers. And then our quality standards build on that. And we're focusing on how we accomplish our goals and at high levels.
So thank you for participating in this webinar. Just you being here shows your commitment to the growth of your center and your practices as a coordinator for the Family Resource and Youth Services Center program.
All right, and let's get over to the PowerPoint here. There we go. Apparently, I'm not as good at Google Slides either. All right, so like I said, we've got Mary Ann Jennings and Melanie Madison, and they are going to talk to us today about community strengthening. We are so glad that you all are here. Ladies, I show 28 participants at this time, so that's going to work great for 2 breakout groups. And Madison, I don't know, or Melanie, I don't know if you know this, but we're going to keep your group here in the main room, and we're going to record your breakout group, and we'll send the other half over to Mary Ann's. And so I think that's the logistics. So ladies, take it away.
Thanks, Greg. Melanie, do you want to tell everybody, I kind of got to introduce myself in the video, nothing like having to watch yourself, right, to start off your webinar. But Melanie, you want to go ahead and share with everybody where you're at?
Hi, everyone. My name is Melanie Madison. I am an FRC in Shelby County at Heritage Elementary. I have been an FRC for this July will be my 6th year. As you guys well know, it's the best job in the world.
What's the expression? The toughest job you'll ever love.
Definitely.
Definitely. All right. Well, I know Melanie and I both appreciate folks who have taken some time out today to join us, because I know summers are just as busy as the school year. So it's not really a downtime for most folks. And so we appreciate you taking the time to come in and listen to us talk about and to share your ideas around this standard. We're going to talk about community strengthening, and it's formerly called community building. So there have been some changes to the standards probably since you were initially trained. And so we are at the frame that we're using is the new language and the new way that we're talking about things. So you'll be formally trained on this a little later, but we want to go ahead and introduce the language to you and let you see some of the changes that have been made that we feel like are really high quality changes, right? You know, we do feel like that the changes are for the good. And I'm excited personally, and I think Melanie is too, about talking about community strengthening, simply because coordinators just knock this out of the ballpark. The coordinators really get this section. Coordinators across the state do really well. And I actually refer to it as community coordinating many times when I talk to folks about what our centers do. There's a lot of community coordination going on, and I think centers are working at high quality in this area a lot. So anything you want to share as we get started, Melanie?
No, I do say that if you are sharing standards with your advisory council, sometimes this is the easiest one to start with, because it's really easy to explain, and advisory councils seem to really get this one.
Great. And just as a quick reminder, as we get started, remember we do have a pre and a post poll, so I can launch those at whatever point you guys would like.
Go ahead. We can launch the first poll. We can go ahead and do that now. That'll work.
All right, so here is the pre-poll. So how would you rate your comfort level with actually implementing the community strengthening standards at your center or in your center? And so we've got a host of responses. So we've got, there we go, responses are coming in. And we apologize. We know that some platforms and some bandwidth do not allow you to participate in polls. There's always about 10-15%, but we're up to 60% now. If you could go ahead and fill that poll out, and we will carry on. I'm gonna give it about 10 more seconds. All right, and what I'm seeing right now, and I'll share it with you momentarily, is pretty consistent with what we've seen throughout this series. Here we go. So our winner is 3, kind of right in the middle level. I've found some limited ways to apply the standards to help improve my center. And we've got a decent handful that feel like they've got about 4 that they're excited about using the standards to actually modify their programs. And so through the course of today's session, we'll see if we can move the needle on some of these. Thank you all for participating in that. All right, and again, you guys can take it away.
All right. So what is community strengthening? So it's developing a strong and healthy community, working collaboratively with various stakeholders and supporting families and civic engagement, leadership development, and ability to affect systems change. So what does that mean in a nutshell? So our community strengthening, what we're looking at is how are we working and incorporating our community into our centers? And then also how are we involving our parents and assisting them in advocating and being a true part of their community and effective change? So that's what we're going to be looking at today. And that's kind of this area in a nutshell. So I want to talk a little bit about language. If we can go to the next slide. I feel like it's always important to reinforce the information that we're talking about. So here we have, just to remind you that there are 5 sections of these standards, and this community strengthening is just one section of those standards. So this is one of the 5, and then within those 5 areas, there are approximately 17 standards that go along with these areas. And then I just And then we'll have indicators. And here's one of the important changes that was made to the standards. And I'm sure we're just reiterating things that you've already heard in earlier presentations. But there was a term that was used that made folks feel a little uncomfortable, which was minimum quality. So we have changed that, and it's a foundational quality. So as you hear us talk about the indicators, we're going to be using terms foundational quality and then high quality. And then I want to mention too that as we talk about those indicators, we're going to share some examples. And I want you to realize that those examples are just illustrations. So it's not a checklist. So don't take a look at those examples and feel like, oh, I need to do everything down that list in order to reach high quality or to meet my foundational quality. So remember, examples are just illustrations. It's not a checklist that we want you to go by. And then finally, there's the arrow, and that arrow includes the elements. Elements are ways that you're going to move the needle, as Greg mentioned. You're going to move yourself and your center from the foundational quality to high quality. And so when we're working with this, the elements in this section are either going to be the formal structure or family partnerships. Anything I missed, Melanie?
No, you're good. Okay.
And then one last thing I want to point out that goes along with the standards is what areas of research is reflecting from. So if we're looking at the family support principles, next slide, please. I'm sorry. It's hard to remember to do that. We're going to be looking at 5 and 6 family support principles, meaning programs are embedded in their communities and contribute to the community building process. Programs advocate with families for services and systems that are fair, responsive, and accountable to the family served. And then our protective factors are social connections and concrete support in times of need. So with that being said, that kind of gives you an overview of where we are, reminders about the language that we're going to be using or that we use when we talk about our standards. And so I'm going to ask Greg to click to the next slide and turn it over to Melanie.
Great. Okay, so we're going to start with the first part of community strengthening. That is standard 1, and that is that the program is engaged in community strengthening and builds collaborative relationships. So for the foundational quality indicator, that is that the program demonstrates awareness of community issues and priorities. Some examples, and just like Marianne said, these are just illustrations. It's not a checklist. Some examples are sending out flyers about community forums, such as your school board meetings, letting families know when those are so that they can go. A lot of school board meetings have times that families can sign up to talk about a certain issue. And so to let your families know when those meetings would meet that at a foundational quality level. Attending community meetings to understand and reduce chronic school absenteeism would be an example. So any of those community meetings that you attend, that is foundational.
And Melanie, just to make this a little bit more interactive, I just put a chat question in. As we're talking about these, feel free to just chime in examples from your own center and your own program that kind of go along with what we're saying, just to kind of get everybody more involved. So just wanted to throw that in there. And sorry for the interruption, Melanie.
No, that's great. If you guys have any ways that you have found that work for meeting this standard at a foundational level, put them in the chat. I know these trainings have always given me great ideas. So it's really, really helpful if you have something that works for you and you put it in the chat so the rest of us can see it. While we're waiting on that, I think we can go on to the next slide. Okay, so the second part of standard community strengthening 1.1 is the high quality indicator. And so that is saying that the program has a formal structure to address community issues and priorities. So if you remember in that arrow that's where the elements were. So the former structure is what's going to move that from foundational to high quality. And some examples of that would be developing and conducting an assessment about the availability and accessibility of a summer youth program. That's something that you could do with your advisory council. And that would be a formal structure. Joining the chronic school absenteeism reduction task force and reporting that information out to your advisory council, that would also be an example. And if you guys have any examples of that and you want to add those to the chat, feel free to do that. But that is the first standard. So this is something that we as FRYSCs do a lot. We are involved in the community, and then just looking at ways to move from foundational to high. We can go to the next slide. All right, so the second part of that is still the same standard. So the program is engaged in community strengthening and builds collaborative relationships. This is 1.2, and the foundational quality indicator is that the program demonstrates awareness of and works with other service providers and community organizations to share resources and information. Some examples of that would be networking with other service providers. So say that you're in some sort of community meeting and you are talking with other service providers about what they're providing for the community, and then you're sharing what you provide the community. That would be the networking part. And then participating in meetings with other community organizations. So I don't know, a lot of FRYSC sat on different kind of councils in the community. This would be meeting that standard at the foundational quality. Next slide. So how you move that to high quality would be to create formal partnerships with other service providers and community organizations to strengthen families and communities collaboratively. So an example of that would be setting up a task force with those other organizations to address a gap in a program. That is creating a formal partnership. Like, I am working with this organization to address this need. Does anybody have any questions? If you want, you can drop that into the chat if you have any questions about this.
Y'all are a quiet bunch today. We'd absolutely love and welcome any feedback. So if you've got questions, thoughts, please chime in, either come off mute or go ahead and put them in the chat. Especially, we've got a little bit smaller group today. So please join in.
Excuse me, before we move on, have we received like an updated standards of quality for family strengthening and support? Do we have a new, we have an updated book on this?
That is an excellent question, Ramona. So like Mary Ann said at the beginning, what we're going to be doing is, you all were kind of due. Everybody who initially got trained on standards was due to be retrained anyway. And we were trying to figure out how that was going to happen. And now that we have these newly updated standards, throughout the course of the next 6-8 months, we're going to be rolling out an updated training for all of you. And at that training, or probably prior to that training, if we're still doing them virtually, we will mail you new materials. Now, that said, we do have a PDF copy. It's kind of been evolving, but we'll have that on the training website, the Training Hub website as well. Excellent question.
Just
and then
looking for like new language, like want to
Yep.
make sure that the language being used in the upcoming grant cycle, and when conducting our advisory council meetings are being used as we move forward.
Yep. And absolutely, totally agree. Great question. And honestly, when you're having conversations like that, the major things that I would update is completely drop that term minimum quality and start referring to foundational quality. You're also going to find that the section we addressed last week, the diversity, equity, inclusion, is going to be very intentionally mixed into the other sections. But a lot of the other changes are fairly minor tweaks and realignments. So you're going to be pretty good until you get your hands on those materials, but we will try to make those available at least in a PDF version. And very soon you'll have your own manual. I'm still actually waiting for, we're all waiting for our new trainer manuals. Actually, that's one of the things that's kind of holding up this process. But no, great question. Thank you.
Last question. Is the racial equity and diversity training, is that available somewhere for me to view a recorded version?
Yes. Again, thank you. It's Ramona, your check is in the mail. So thank you for asking those questions. Yes. So if you have not previously checked out our archives, if you go to the Training Hub website, and I'm going to put the link in the chat box, and let me just throw it up real quickly on the screen.
Okay.
So if you go to the Training Hub website, here's what it looks like. And it has all sorts of information, including announcements about VOV, which the registration is technically open. And I'm going to be sending an email out officially welcoming everybody to start registering. But right here on the third tab over are the Wednesday webinars. And if you click on this tab, all of the webinars we've done since the very first one that Mariana Romero did are all archived here. And so there's a table of contents at the top. And if you scroll down, there they are. So if you missed last week, right there is the video. And I will put that link in the chat. Again,
okay, I think I have that. One of our coordinators, Don Davis, has sent that out and was like, you know, we wouldn't want to miss it. And it was a good training. Okay.
Super.
All right.
All right. Again, thank you for the great questions. Anybody else? All right. Melanie, I'm turning it back over to you.
All right. I see that Greta has put something in the chat about completing a summit on trauma-informed community to get educated. I think that's great. So thanks, Greta, for putting that in the chat. If you would go to the next slide, Greg, I believe we're ready for our breakout activity. So this is our first little breakout group that we're going to do. We're going to just discuss the following 2 questions and report back. Describe your best community partnership, and then how do you make that community partnership high quality?
All right. And so everybody might want to just jot down little notes to yourself about those 2. And then here's how this is going to happen. We're going to have 2 breakout groups. One's going to actually be formally in a breakout group. The other one's going to stay here in this room. And we're going to record one of them. So let me go ahead and make sure that you all are each in a separate group. Where are you, Marianne?
I'm right here.
Okay. And I'm going to move you to the other room, and there we go. All right. And let me just turn all this off. And how long would you like this group to go? Remind me, please.
10 minutes, you think, Melanie?
Yes, I think 10 minutes would be plenty of time.
All right. All right. If I did that right, half of you are about to join Mary Ann in a breakout group, and the rest of us will stay here with Melanie. All right, we'll see you all in just a few minutes. And Melanie, do you want me to keep the screen share on, or would you like to just come back to the room now? Oh, I might have done that backwards.
Am I in room 1 or 2, Greg?
You're supposed to be in room 2.
There's no, I think it's room 1.
You are in room 1, but.
And then everybody else is in the state where they were unassigned. So I'm going to join room 1.
Oh, yeah, you should have got a prompt. That's correct.
Okay. I did.
All right. Melanie, are you here with me still? Or did I miss that up? Yep. All right. My apologies here. I thought I had that straight, but apparently I've made a little bit of a mistake. Okay, so we've got Marianne and Melanie in that room. Okay, so what I'm gonna do. There we go. Okay, so nope, we need you here, Marianne. So you're on mute. What happened is I turned the wrong room off. And so,
okay.
Yep. So, all right. So you are going to stay here and lead this discussion.
Great. All right. I'm glad to finally be in the right place.
You were in the right place. I was the one that was completely backwards. So thank you for figuring that out and jumping right back with us. All right. And I've still got the share up. So here are the questions for everyone. And I'll let you take it away.
Okay. So we've got a pretty small group. Let's hop real quick through and tell everybody your name and what your center name is, you know, where you're located, if we could please, just to say hello.
Hi guys, I'm the co-joiner FRC at Carrick and Eisenhower.
Donna Stamper, Operation Care, Family Resource Center, Olive Hill.
I'm Greta Gibson, Family Resource Center at Emelina Elementary, Knox County, Kentucky.
Thank you, Greta. Lisa?
Sorry about that. I'm Lisa Dewan with Bourbon County Youth Services.
I'm Sarah Mattingly. I'm Family Resource Center Coordinator at Glasscock Elementary in Marion County.
I'm Danita Earlywine. I'm the Family Resource Director at Bourbon Central Elementary in Paris.
Who else?
I'm Rhonda Kircher. I'm the Family Resource Center Coordinator in Allen County Schools.
Thank you, Rhonda. And Dawn, I think you were about to say something.
I'm Dawn Davis. I'm the Youth Service Coordinator at Lassiter Middle School in Jefferson County.
Welcome, everyone. Did we miss anyone?
Yeah. I think we got a couple of regional program managers on here too. They're trying to be quiet and incognito.
We're trying. Russell Jones, I'm the Regional Program Manager in Region 9.
Betty Pennington, Regional Program Manager in Region 4.
Ashley, did we hear from you?
No, my screen looks.
Oh, I called her out and she just left.
I will keep an eye on her rejoining and I'll ask her to turn her video off. That'll actually probably save her bandwidth. All right.
Okay.
Did we miss anyone else?
There she is. There's Ashley. She's back. Did we miss anybody else?
Hey, Ashley, you might want to turn your video off. It's a little fuzzy and you obviously dropped. So we're thinking you might have some bandwidth stuff going on. So while we love seeing you, you're muted, by the way, too. Thank you for rolling with the punches. Yes. It was for a second.
I'll turn my video off. It was off, then I turned it on, and that's when everything went crazy. So
yeah,
I'm Family Resource Coordinator in Green County.
All right. Super.
So we're going to start with our first question, and I am going to take some notes just as we talk, just so I can jot that down. But our first question is, describe your best community partnership. So who wants to start out and give us some examples of best community partnerships?
Well, I would like to just start out by saying that we here in Bourbon County are very fortunate. We have a Human Services Committee, and it consists of lots of area partners from like the Kentucky Career Center, Habitat for Humanity, Bluegrass Care Navigators, just all sorts of partnerships that can help our families in numerous ways. And so we meet once a month, and we bring in guest speakers as well. We all get to share what's going on, or if there's a need that we have within the community that area partners could help us with. So that has been very a good thing for us here in Bourbon and Paris.
And if I could just point out that it sounds like that you've moved that to a high quality by using that formal structure, working with that committee, meeting monthly, having that structure, and y'all have been able to accomplish that high quality with that. Would you agree?
I would.
Great.
Yeah, and that group's been going on for a couple of, probably 2 or 3 years now that we've had that group, and it's been very supportive.
Great. Who else has some ideas? Who would like to share their best community partnerships?
I just also like to add here in Bourbon County, especially at the elementary level, we have tremendous support from our extension office. Any kind of program we do, whether it be just the regular programs like Safety Day, Recipe for Life, or even if our family literacy nights that we've had at the drive-in this past month, they provided things because we did a math thing. So they provided measuring tools for the students to learn measurements, and they are always willing to help and willing to come in. They have been in my school this week, finally, for the first time, to do presentations to our summer empowerment academies. So they are really very supportive of us.
Great. Who's next?
In Allen County, I can't really say who our best partner is because we have so many amazing partners. There's not a lot in Allen County, but the whole community works together to support the FRYSC in Allen County.
Okay. Someone else was getting ready to chime in, and I didn't notice who it was. Who else has a community partnership that's strong?
It was me. I'm new. I've only been in this role for since September, and I have 2 schools. But I really lean on the church. We have a church here in Jefferson County that, I mean, to me, it feels like they're almost like one-stop shopping. The only thing that, I'm careful about is just the separation of church and state, because they do have a God aspect to it that they're pushing, but not necessarily pushing. But yeah, so that, and then I'm really on her just to hear what everybody else uses, who else, and not without trying to overwhelm myself, with having 2 schools. If you have, I don't know if there's a such thing as too many community partnerships, but being a coordinator, you have to coordinate it, so if you have a whole lot, then navigating through that whole piece of it is something I'm trying to learn, being new, especially, and in anticipation of a normal school year next year. So
can you think of one thing that really helped build that relationship and make that relationship stronger?
I think it's more about just the connection and the willingness to go out there and say what you need. And it's not about us. It's a partnership, so although they give, we give back. So we try to find opportunities to maybe give letters to senior citizens, or, help clean up the building area, or anything that we can do to help them as well. So, and it's communication, letting them know what you need. They say a closed mouth don't get fed. So if you don't say what you need, then how any community partner is going to know. So
excellent. Excellent.
I'm new as well. Stepped into this role in the middle of April, right during the pandemic, and we had just been back in school a few weeks for in-person learning. So I wanted to echo Danita's partnership. We have a strong partnership with our extension office here in Marion County as well. They have a wonderful partnership with all of the schools and have a very active threshold in that, a presence in the schools. And I think UK has just released them to be able to do in person because they came last week to our summer program as well. We were glad to have that.
Great. I want to thank everybody for sharing. We've ended our time. We're going to hop back into the main room. So we're getting ready to close the breakout. Thanks everybody for sharing. I appreciate it.
I was just getting ready to give you a heads up. I was pausing that because Sarah was talking and I wanted to give her a chance to finish. So
right.
I believe they're closing. Yep. I gave about a 30-second countdown. So here comes the other half.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. I ended up in the main room.
We ended up backwards.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay. I'll switch it for the other one. And welcome back, everyone. I let the groups go just a little bit longer because of my mistake of flip-flopping the two groups. And we'll flip-flop them the other way for the second breakout activity.
Perfect.
And it looks like we've got everybody back now.
All right. Do we want to, are we ready to jump into the next? Okay, the next standard. So I'm going to talk to you about standard number 2. And I'm sure Greg's going to be working on getting those slides up there for us, but it's standard number 2, and it's the program engages family and community strengthening and supports their leadership development.
Sorry. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's right there on the screen. I should probably share it with the group, shouldn't I? Sorry about that. Thank you for.
No problem.
Can you see it now?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're on there now. So there are two standards within 2 sections, 2 sets of indicators within this standard. Shoo, see, the language is even hard for us sometimes too, right? So we understand. So there are one I would consider 2.1 would be about parents engaging in community strengthening. So you're engaging parents into this area. And then the second one would be building that parent leadership, right? And so those are kind of, just in a quick breakdown, that's what it would be. So let's start with the community strengthening number 2. And I don't know if you can see, but I just have a coworker that just showed up in my lap. So if I'm a little distracted, and I realize this is recording, so my coworker will be forever living on this recording, right? So we're going to talk about program. The foundational quality indicator for this is program provides opportunities for families to be involved in addressing community issues and priorities. So that's when we talk about foundational quality indicator. Some examples would be you're just going to send out flyers and you're going to invite folks to those meetings, let them know that it's happening, or you're going to be hosting a meeting that parents can take advantage of with maybe, we have a lot of grandparents or family members that are raising students. And so you're going to offer legal representation to help them to understand and know their rights. So those are just a couple of examples of that foundational quality. And then in the next slide, we'll see that the high quality is going to be the program supports families to address quality issues and priorities. So you've used those elements and you're moving to this high quality, and that would be that you are provide opportunities for families to be involved in addressing communities issues and priorities. So maybe you're organizing those events where they're going to be able to have a voice. So you're So you're going to be working maybe with your advisory council to plan a forum that to address a need that's going on in your school. This one says the school's need for a crosswalk, but your council is planning that and offering an opportunity for families to address the community issues. So then we go on to the second piece of this, and that would be thank you for the next slide. And so that means the program supports families to advocate for themselves and to develop their community leadership skills. So that's where I mentioned the parent piece of this. So we're actually building parent leadership skills within the families that we work with. So examples of some of this would be, or of this area of the foundational quality would be sending out information on how parents can become advocates for their schools, children at their schools, bringing a parent with you to a community meeting, inviting a parent to serve on your advisory council that may have never served in the school in any way before. Those are some ways that we can see examples of building parent leadership at a foundational quality. And then as we move to high quality, using those elements that we talked about in our arrows, when we look at high quality, that's going to be you implement a formal structure to partner with families and develop leadership skills. So having parents presented a workshop on advocating for their child's educational plan. You have a lot of families have learned, or you have helped them become advocates for their own children, and having that peer share and helping them to see how they can share their knowledge with other families. Having a training plan for the parent chairperson to lead your advisory council meetings. So, you know, when you were at that foundational quality, you invited them as part of your meeting, and then building that leadership, they've become your advisory council chair. So you can see how you can move from that foundational to high quality. Next slide. So that was just kind of a summary of what that second standard looks like. And I wanted to make sure I didn't mess up the language again. And we want to be able to share how you are doing that parent leadership within your own school. So if we're going to do another breakout, and I think we're going to do about 10 minutes again on this one.
Yep, and this time it's going to be reversed. So Marianne, you are going to be going with the same group, but you guys are going to go into the breakout this time, and Melanie and her group are going to stay here in this room. Here are the prompts in the chat. And without further ado, here we go. Now cross your fingers that I did it right this time. All right, and there goes Marianne's group. And Melanie, I'm going to stay here with your group this time.
Perfect. So are our groups the same as last time?
They are.
Oh, okay. So then we don't
I
have
thought that would be helpful.
Yeah, that's great. We won't have to spend, you know, the first 5 minutes introducing ourselves. Our first question is, how do you engage families to become involved in their community? And I know we have some friends who do not have the ability to speak. So if they want to just put them in the chat box, they can do that. But how do you guys engage families to become involved in their community?
I'll say it's Latasha. One of the things that I do that probably was not as popular at first, but it definitely turned out to be a great opportunity for my families, is the Holiday Assistance Program. I had a eligibility requirement that included volunteer hours within the school community. And so some of my families actually came to volunteer and then didn't leave and assumed roles in the SBDM or on the advisory council or the PTA. Some of them received jobs as a result. They were able to substitute. And so it met a need for them because they weren't working. And then they were able to get some skills inside of the school building, not just in the FRC. It increased the academic performance and the behavioral performance of their children because they were able to see their parents in the building. It boosted their confidence. They were able to become their own advocate for their children. And it wasn't asking a whole lot. It was, you know, just an investment in something that, you know, the community's already investing in you. So just giving them that opportunity was a great way to get them up and out.
I love that. So a lot of times people could on the outside look at that and think that that's not a positive because you're requiring families to volunteer in order to get holiday assistance. But in actuality, it helped move them into some leadership roles, which that in itself, you've just demonstrated high quality. So I think that's a fantastic idea. I see that Jennifer put in the chat that she has back to school fest with a gym with community partners, and that's how they find out what's going on in the community. Those back to school fest, ready fest, job fairs are a great way to partner with people out there in the community and get that information out to families. Holiday assistance. I see somebody else does volunteering for holiday assistance and family nights. And then a book study. So Jennifer said she did a book study with Leader in Me to help parents connect and then use Leader in Me at home. I think that's a fantastic program. And yeah, I think that's great. Thanks, Jennifer, for sharing, and T. Cooper. And I don't want to butcher people's names. A rolling crew of community resource providers to present at luncheons. Okay, so that's great. And then Ramona says that she may ask her parent advisory council to be involved in back to school events this year. Yeah, I think that's great. Just those little tweaks that will take something in your program from foundational and move it to high. Those are all great ideas. Does anyone else have another way that they help families become engaged in their community? They want to oh, All Pro Dads. I was wondering if somebody would share that. So All Pro Dads is a program. My school's used it as well in the past, where you have a dad that actually runs the meetings, and then sharing out on social media. Yeah, that's another great way to share information for families.
My school is an ESL school, so when other parents kind of vacated the advisory council, I literally put.
Oh, Ramona, we just lost your sound. You accidentally muted yourself.
I did. I'm sorry. I handed out a flyer in the car rider line to, regain those parent reps or interest. We kind of put like SBDM and advisory council on the same flyer, and I was able to do that. And I actually have ESL, an English language learner on the advisory council as well, and she's been wonderful. She's been wonderful.
I think that's great, especially that you were able to merge that into one flyer. And then
we were both in need. Like the advisory council was in need, and so was the SBDM. And my thing, it's not a competition. We need parent reps, so we need to work together to get them. So if you're interested in SBDM, and I had a little blurb about what SBDM was, and a little blurb about, what advisory council is, so that they would know and be able to pick and choose.
I think that's a great idea. And does anyone else have any other ideas of how you can help families become involved, such as like Ramona had talked about?
We were going to involve our families in the, we do I forgot the name of it, like a cultural fair. We did a culture fair and the kids absolutely loved it. We involved the children the first time we did it, but we were going to do it in 1920, of course, but then the pandemic came through here. But parents were on the committee, the planning part of it. And, they were so excited the first time we did it. They literally came to me and our ESL teachers, and they was like, how can we be a part of this? Like, we had students share like their cultural dances. They wore native garb and everything. It was amazing. So I look forward to us getting back to some type of normalcy so we can, follow through with those things and have our parents involved in not just participating, but in coordinating as well.
I think that's fantastic. And that also goes to another standard, the diversity, the equity and inclusion standard. So a lot of times you'll see these standards overlap. And that's a really good example. I like that one. Let's see, Jennifer put in the chat, the end of the year kickball games and parents come to volunteer. I don't know what that is, but that sounds like fun. So if I were a parent, I would definitely want to come to that. A great way to make school and parent connections. That sounds like a great program. And I don't know about you guys, but I am looking forward to hopefully having a normal school year this year and getting those parents back in the building and working with volunteers. So this is like jump starting my mind on how to, what programs we want to do next year and how to improve them. Does anyone else have any tips of how to get families engaged in their community? Oh, I think you're talking, Ramona, and you might be muted.
I said I agree with Tasha, like how the families being involved in the school community and the students seeing their families, you know, and their parents at school, it definitely curtail behaviors and it gives them like a sense of pride. They love it.
I think
just a quick heads up, because you guys don't see the countdown since you're not in a room. We got about 30 seconds plus a 30-second join. So we got about one more minute.
Well, I want to thank everyone for sharing. I know that I've been a little hesitant to add volunteering to my Christmas assistance. And so that's something I'm actually going to really look into. So you guys have given me a great tip because I hadn't thought about that in that positive spin on it. So I think that would be a great addition to my own program. So I want to thank you guys for that. And thank you guys for sharing all of the ways that you help families become engaged.
Here comes our other group back. And it'll take just a minute for people to rejoin the main room, but welcome back. The other breakout group. I don't even know which one is group 1 and group 2 at this point. Welcome back, the rest of you. All right. Mary Ann, Melanie, any kind of wrap up comments that you want to?
My groups were great. They gave some really good ideas. I know I'm going to steal some of them myself for my programs and how to get parents engaged in their community, their school community, and then our community as a whole. So I just want to thank everybody for sharing in the breakout groups.
I agree, and thanks for attending today. And I know I got some great examples to use as we begin those trainings you mentioned, Ramona, as we start sharing the follow-up and the new standards and things like that. These sessions that we do have been really helpful for providing those. So thanks, everybody.
All right, super. So we have some housekeeping things to take care of. So let's start with an exit poll. And so again, very much the same question you answered on the front end. Given our discussions and our collaboration here, where would you rate yourself now with this particular section, community strengthening, in terms of your comfort level?
Someone asked to widen the poll screen. I think, isn't there
can't see the full thing, and like the poll jumped up on my screen, but then it disappeared altogether.
So it can hide in the background. I don't think there's anything to do to change the screen size, but a lot of times you have to scroll down to get all the answers.
Yeah. It's not on my screen anymore.
Gotcha. Well, hopefully you were able to press a button. I have 84% of the people, so most people did. So let me go ahead and show the results. And it's looking pretty good. Here we go. So we have overwhelming majority, 77% are now at a 4, excited to use the standards to actually modify and analyze. And we have 3 people that we can tap next time to actually help us present this section of standards. So that's wonderful. Of course, we have a couple RPMs that actually train the standards, so I would hope we have a couple 5s. That's super. Okay, let me go ahead and share screen. Some other details that we've got for you. So thank you for joining Melanie and Marianne as they've brought you the community strengthening. Remember, if you have want to go back and refer to this, it's episode 18. It is the 4th part, Part D of Strengthen with Standards. And let me zip ahead. This is going to be information that you're going to want. That is the PD approval code. That is 005. 2122. So that's what you're going to put on your PD tracking form. Keep in mind that starting with last week, or well, the last session and this session, that both of these do count for PD credit, but we have passed that June 1st, May 31st deadline. So all of these count towards the year coming up. So remember, this is going to be on your new PD tracking form that you're just now starting for next year. And that is for 1 full hour of PD. And then the last piece I have for you is the exit slip. And I have copied this and so I could paste it about 83 times, but then I keep pasting something else. But I do believe that that is the correct link for the exit form. So please make sure to fill that out before you leave us today. And I don't trust myself, so I'm going to click on it myself and make sure it works. And it does. Good. So if you could please fill out that exit slip as you're leaving. And remember that in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be back for one last installment of Strengthen Through Standards. And that is going to be, again, back to the PowerPoint. That is going to be with RPM from Jefferson County, Naila, and coordinator Randall Campbell, who we mentioned in the video, who had a seat at the table for a very significant portion of time to analyze the standards and give the process of revamping them and updating them a FRYSC Kentucky voice. And so we were very much represented. And in fact, I think we were the ones that led the change from getting rid of minimum quality and referring to good, solid foundational quality and then building from that. So any other questions, comments, or thoughts before we break up here today? I'm really excited. I ran over by about 6 minutes, the last one, and it is just now 1:29 or 12:29. Nice job, ladies.
Thanks for running the show, Greg. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
It was my pleasure.
Everybody have a great week, a great summer, and we will see you all soon.